Feinberg show, brother.
Hey,
Good to see you, man. Hey, I wanted to ask you, Emil, can you talk to the audience about Sendai, when you first got to Sendai, and the experience you had there with the earthquake when you landed, why you went, and what happened? And yeah, look at the camera. People want to see your face.
yeah, what happened? Sendai. Wow. Gosh.
Japan, Sendai.
Sendai, the army band. I went to bed and thought somebody pushed me out of bed. And it was an earthquake. I was on the floor. So was everybody in the band. I forget, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, and it shook us all up pretty bad. And that was my introduction to Sendai.
Was there improvisation? I mean, not traditional Japanese music, but in terms of melodic music, like people call that jazz. Was there jazz in Japan before Kenton came there with you after World War II?
Yes, there was. I hooked up quite quickly when I got there with Toshiko Akiyoshi and Sadeo Watanabe, two of the very famous jazz players that are still around. Sadeo Watanabe works in Japan and all over the world. He's traveling all the time. And Toshiko Akiyoshi's living in New York.
Right.
And
Married to
she's-
Lou Tabakin.
Right, and she's playing as well. And
Toshiko was playing these dance halls, and cats like Hampton Hawes were there. Were you
right,
with Hampton? I mean, did you play those dance halls? Is that where you met
I got
Toshiko?
there right after Hampton.
You got there after Hampton.
Yeah, he had just left. I think he left. I didn't.
Yeah, we're not sure.
Yeah, I didn't hook up with him when I was there, but I did go to Tokyo right away and hooked up with Toshiko. And I found out that if I played weekends in the officers' club, not being paid, I would get days off. So I waited until I accrued 30 days, and by then I had she yell at them if they didn't play the right changes or if something was going wrong. She was the boss of the band, for
Wow.
sure.
Even then, and how
Oh
old? She
yeah.
was young though. She was like a kid.
Well, she was up there. She was older than I am. She is older than I am, and she didn't want to know anything, but she just took over when it came to music. If anybody lagged behind or played the wrong change,
Sounding better than ever.
Yeah.
You know, this is really important. The amalgamation of the black and white musicians happened right before you came out here in '59 to California. But I want you to talk to the audience right now about the fact that when in the studio scene at that time, if you played saxophone and then you played piccolo on the same date and then you played flute, you'd get 50%, you'd get your union wage, and then every other instrument you got that you played, you'd get 50% extra bonus. And with percussionists, it was either mallets or traps. And I want you to talk about how you advocated for your percussion brothers with the chimes and the vibes, and how you had those cats come over here every weekend and eventually advocated for double scale for multitudes of different percussive instruments. Take us through that whole, tell us that story, because you were animated about that.
Well, it wasn't double scale. It was
People want to see your beautiful face, by the way.
the first double was 50%, and every double after that was 20%. And we only got 2 doubles when I first got here: traps and mallets. So it was actually
Traps
one
and
double.
mallets.
It was really one double. Mallets and then traps was your only double, which gave you 50% more. Well, from Shelly Man on down, we got every drummer in town, every mallet player, and we decided what was going to be a double. I mean, we gave them 25 percussion instruments.
You're talking about the union. You had to advocate to the union.
We made a list of percussion instruments, of 25 percussion instruments, and we said that's more than enough, so that any just rhythmic playing and bongos and conga drums. So we had one list of Latin instruments, another list of percussion instruments, and then anything that was not in that list, we construed as a separate double, like steel drums. Took a lifetime to study steel drums, tabla drums. None of us were really good tabla players because tabla players spend a lifetime to play that instrument.
Right.
But yet, they wouldn't hire a tabla player, but they wanted the percussionist to be able to play all those instruments. So we felt it only fair. We voted and made it real fair for management to be able to pay us the doubles that we felt we deserved. And it took a long time, a lot of meetings, And when we presented it to management, they had no complaints with it because we were being fair, for sure.
I also want you to talk to the audience. It's extremely important for our lineage. They'd say, okay, you'd be on a date, whatever, it could be any date, and they'd say, okay, let's take a 10, 15-minute break. Percussionists, get the sheets out, get it out for the next, get your stuff together for the next time. And you said, wait a minute, we're part of the band too, man. We need a break. Can you talk about what they would, why, first of all, why were percussionists held in such low esteem? And then what did you do? You were the first one to get bathroom breaks for the percussionists?
Well, it just stands to reason that we all need a break. When you're playing the kind of music that you play in the studios, you need a break.
It's intensive.
You need a break. We're reading new music that we never saw before, and they want to record it. And being able to record it means you have to be such a great sight reader to play it down the first time cold and know it. And that kind of weighs on your psyche, and you need a break like everyone else. They were just so short of time that they said, well, okay, the band take a 10-minute break. We all got 10-minute breaks, but percussion set up for the next cue.
That's right. Set it up. Right.
And I said, wait a minute, we need a break as well. We can't just go in there cold. We need to go to the bathroom. We need to get a cup of coffee. We need our 10 minutes like everyone else. And they understood all that. They were just trying to get away with as much as they could because of the shortness of time. They wanted to record so much music in a 3-hour session, and they tried all kinds of ways to make, especially the percussionists, go along with what they thought was adequate, but it wasn't. 10-minute break every hour was not enough, really, and at least that we felt we needed,
Would you say that Shelley was a huge advocate because you were an unknown when you came out here? Who helped you get into? Because I know the guild formed with the union after a year. They consolidated, but you were a no name, so you were barking at people and telling people we got to add. I'm talking about double scale now. Was Shelley the one? Who did you put on that team with you?
A lot of the drummers in town.
Like who?
Irv Kotler.
Oh yeah.
Milt Holland.
Oh, the legends.
Just on and on. Every drummer in town came to those meetings with us and helped us.
Larry Bunker?
Larry Bunker.
Bunker was there?
Oh, yeah. Alvin Stoller. Just on and on. Every good drummer in town came to those meetings with us because it behooved them to get involved with us because...
Was Blaine there?
Hal Blaine, sure.
We got an audience. People are fired up to see you right now. So Blaine, and then how did those? I mean, it seemed like the most reasonable argument to say, "Hey, we're playing tablas with our hands. That's not a mallet instrument,
right?
Right? I mean, did it? Was there a definitive meeting, or was there one that, or did it just happen?
We had 2 Sundays a month. We got together at my house for close to a year. And when we finally presented it to management, we showed them how big each list was and how fair we were to do it. Not only did we have to learn to play those instruments, but we had to buy them. Nobody supplied those instruments. We had to go out and buy those instruments ourselves. So we had to not only buy them, but learn to play them adequately. And by adequately, I mean well, very well.
Right, and at that point, you were only getting paid for scale, just
yes.
as a mallet or trap.
So that was one of the things I'm proud to say I was very instrumental in helping get for all the percussionists in town.
You know, I always try to remember. I heard the blues. She heard me cry. George Duke. When did you meet George? Because on that album, there are some great shots of you guys, and you actually are listed as a composer on that album. But when did you meet George originally?
Just about that time. I don't remember what year it was, but it was near the beginning of my coming to town. And he had some mallet parts that he wanted played. And he was using a wonderful girl player
Yeah. I can't remember her name either.
who played with Frank Zappa.
Ruth Underwood.
Ruth Underwood.
I was going to ask you, Ruth. That was the first time you met Ruth?
Yes.
Wow.
And she was doing some of George Duke's playing, and of course she was very busy with Frank Zappa, and so I got in on a lot of that stuff, which was great for me. I mean, mallets is my forte. I never played drums. I came out here as a mallet player, so
Porcaro was playing drums.
he wasn't here at that time.
Really?
Joe and I grew up together. I've known Joe now for 78 years.
You guys are still cooking. I saw you at Bogies. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, this is the question. This is what I've wanted to talk to you about for so long. When did you? Everyone knows Diane Krall. Nobody knows Irene Krall. And I swear to you, man, this album Crawl Space is with Broadbent and Ciroli. And these guys, but you connected with Irene in the 60s, is that right? You knew,
Yeah.
How did you meet her originally? And talk about what an amazing singer she was.
I can't remember now how I met her, but I knew her from I got here in 59. So I met Irene real close to after I got here. And Alan Broadbent was doing a lot of her piano work.
Even at that time?
Oh, yeah. And he called me in on a lot of the mallet parts, which was great. Irene was such a great singer and a great player. I mean, great musician is what I meant to say.
Could you, the audience got some serious percussionists tuning in here, but the first time Don Ellis said, let's play a blues in 5. Could you demonstrate to the audience like what you were playing? Because you never played in 5 before. When he came to you and said, "Let's play this in 7," let's play. Can you demonstrate what he did that was mind blowing to you?
No, he just had written all the stuff out, and it was just.
What were you playing before that? And then what were you? What did he hip you to? Because to me, it was in one of our interviews. You talked about him saying, "Let's play a blues in 5," and you had never even played that in 5.
Yeah, it didn't take long for me because I love rhythms, and the first time we played in 5, a few guys kind of fell on their backside.
They fell on their butt, yeah.
After the first day of playing with Don Ellis, I went home and I messed up a little bit, not as much as some of the other guys. And I said, I'm going to go home and practice in 5 and in 7. And this ain't ever going to happen to me again. Well, our next session was maybe 3 days later, and I went back playing really well in 5 and in 7. And Don said, today we're going to play something in 19. I said, what? So we really played a lot in 19. He liked that number. And I just went home again and learned playing in 19, and then in 13 and 11. I just learned them all. I've just figured no one's ever going to catch me again. I'm a studio musician. Whatever I get asked to play, I have to be able to play. So I just came home and tried things in every possible rhythm I could think of. And I joined Don Ellis's small band. We had a band called the Hindustani Jazz Sextet. And we had one tabla player from India, Harihar Rao, who played with us.
Ravi was a disciple of his?
Yes.
Ravi Shankar was.
Right.
The Hindustani Jazz
Sextet. Yeah.
Were you playing original tunes, or could you play a standard in an odd time for the people? Want you to play? They're calling out for it.
Well, on that album, I did an album in odd times, and what I did was every tune we played was in either 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. The only song I played in 4/4 was Take 5. And that's kind of really mediocre in 4. It's really kind of corny in 4, but we did that song in 4. It was called The New Time Element.
I love that album.
The name of that album, yeah.
What about some of the more traditional tunes that you played in odd times? Can you demonstrate that?
Sure. I'm trying to remember what.
I was going to say, I mean, this is not part of that. This is later on. It was a Spirit of '76, but that was, I think Mackay came up with that one.
Yeah, Dave Mackay. Oh, gosh, I can't remember all those right now.
A lot of veterans are tuning in right now on this Veterans Day for Emil Richards, still cranking away. You did the whole series of Lost. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what were you playing? Boo Bams, or what were you playing? Everything on that?
Playing everything in the way of percussion. Michael Giacchino was the composer on that, and he wrote some wonderful music on that. And we just did a concert at the old Pilgrimage Theater across from the Hollywood Bowl, playing all that music. And Michael gets called to play that music all the time. So he has concerts every so often of the music from Lost. He loves that music, and so do I. So does all the players.
Can you play a tune off Lost?
Not without the music, because it's his music and I don't remember. You got to remember this. When I leave the studio,
yeah,
I leave the music, because I have played so much music by the pounds. When we go in, this happens a lot. The composer will say, "Oh, we only have time for 3 minutes left. I want to do that song we played early this morning. Can you guys just play that?" And I said, "Where's the music? I mean, can somebody pull out the music?" I can't remember. My memory is really gone, because I'm reading music by the pounds every day. And if I don't have the music in front of me, I can't remember. So much music is going by in a day.
In your head. Oh. What's on the stand? Can you play what's on the stand?
That's just some exercises. I wrote this book of exercises, and
you replace the beats. Is it for clinics?
For clinics and for percussionists that want something to learn to play. That's all. series of fourths.
Well, I want you to talk about those clinics where you replace the beats. Talk to the audience about the kind of clinics you do for younger cats who are obsessed with polyrhythms.
Well, 7 is a beautiful number. I love 7. So I try to tell musicians, when you're learning something in an odd time like 7, double up your number to 14 and figure out how many 3s are in 14. So you got 4 3s and equals 12, and you got 2 left over. So you can put a 3 and then a 2 and then 3 3s, or 2 3s and a 2 and 2 3s, or 3 3s and a 2 and 1 3. There's so many combinations once you learn what the formula is, and to learn all of those different permutations is so gratifying, because some of them cook like crazy, and playing that against the basic 1 2 dun, 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 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 playing like 3 6 9 12 and a 2 is it's just amazing when you think of all of the permutations of a number, and you just start to play it and it gels with what the basic is. It's just insane. It's just, I just love it.
Emil, you did an album with Shorty Rogers called The Fourth Dimension in Sound. How many dimensions of sound are there?
I couldn't tell you
that. But I was thinking about that. I was having a beer last night. I was like, I'm going to ask Emil that question. But at the time, it was more about stereo sound as opposed to monophonic, mono sound. And how, in your mind, the drums were such an instrument for, it was an accompanist instrument for so long in music. And it became this driving, pulsating force as rock and roll sort of seeped in. In your mind, how did recording of rhythm change from mono to stereo?
I never thought about it in terms of mono and stereo. I just thought about it in terms of 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and so on, because it wasn't Don Ellis, but the Indian influence in our music that made all the jazz players, mostly rhythm players, interested in odd times and all of that, because
we're talking piano, bass players, drummers,
right.
Rhythm cats, yeah.
Right. Guitar players. It just opened a whole new world, and I fell in love with it. I never could get enough of it. And then when I met Ravi Shankar and played with Ravi, it opened another world for me. We were at MGM, and Ravi had a movie to do. And nothing is written on paper with the Indian guys. It's all passed down by word of mouth.
Teacher to student, verbal, yeah.
Verbal. So maybe 2 hours will go by, and he's giving each section something different to play. And after getting my part, it gelled so great. It blew my mind, because upon listening to all the different parts And trying to play my part with one of those parts wasn't gelling at all. But when he put it all together, it's amazing.
Right. It does sound to. I mean, how could you describe the difference between the parts of Indian music versus African music? Because you played on these Mongol albums that were the same way, where you would, it sounds incredibly complex, but in fact, it's just everybody's part fitting together.
And
And you had to do it with there were no lead sheets or chord charts or anything like that.
no, and Indian music is that way. It's all passed down verbally. And it takes a little longer that way, but the results are incredible. And Ravi Shankar was such a great exponent of that music. It was wonderful to see how that all gelled